up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight. Welcome to Burnin' Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, welcome back, Daylight Burners. Got a good show planned for you today. An old friend of mine from way back, early days of Matt McKinley, back when he knew me as Matt Johnson, actually. And it's my buddy Bleu Ellis. We got to talking the other day on Snapchat, and I, out of the blue, invited him on because we were really pretty close buddies through baseball back in the day, and then he moved away, and then we kind of stay in touch a little bit through high school, and then after you graduated, I had kind of lost track. And then it's kind of the cool thing about social media is you can people that have completely dropped off the radar that you might want to talk to all of a sudden show up on Facebook or something. So that's kind of how I got back in touch with you. And so anyway, here we are. Bleu Ellis, good friend of mine. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Good to be here. And I wasn't expecting when we started chatting yesterday. I didn't expect. I knew you had a podcast, but I didn't figure I would be worthy enough to be on it. But here we go.
I like good conversation. And we were chatting before the show, and I can tell we have good conversation after all these years. Because I grew up. I grew up in Campo. Well, I started in Campo, Colorado, which is, I don't know, 50, 60 people at this point. I don't know. There's not many people there. And there wasn't many people there at the time. But we had a baseball team, though. And that baseball was pretty damn big when we were kids, Little League all the way through high school, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. What was your coach's name, actually? I remember him. I can't think of his name.
In Campo was Alvin Jenkins.
That's right, Alvin.
Yeah. He was a cool guy. I always liked that guy. I'd see him over at Syracuse at the sale barn. Whenever I'd go in on sale day, he was always there trading cattle. And I got nothing bad to say about old Alvin Jenkins. Yeah. He was a hell of a good man to me. I sure enjoyed him as coach.
It's amazing what coaching Little League. It's like how impactful those coaches are on. I can still remember my coaches. Mike Rowe. I don't know if you remember him from Walsh. He was like, I don't know. He's probably like 21, 22. I think he was just coming back for the summer, and and he just was so good with all the kids. And I've run into him actually at a couple different times at Broncos games. I'll run into him and chat it up. But yeah, you just remember those people forever, really.
Yeah, I know it. It's I never did get a chance to work with Mike, but I always I heard a lot of stories about when he was coach, and then like Errol Cook was our Little League coach over in. We had, I think, 2 or 3 teams in Walsh at the time. Errol was coach of my team, and he's a grumpy old fart. But I was talking with Brad the other day, and he was a hell of a baseball coach. So like I learned a lot from him, and we had good teams over there.
Oh yeah, you remember Cecil Hume?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I was going to school in Springfield there for a while, and I remember. Man, and my son's playing. He's in like machine pitch now. He's 8, and he made the all-star team this year, and it's just for 8-year-olds. And I got me thinking. It was kind of funny. We didn't their first game. They didn't have their jerseys in yet, and they sent us a text saying wear a white jersey or shirt, and he wanted to wear my old Backey County All-Star jersey. So
That's
it's white.
awesome.
And he found it, and he put that on, and it brought back, I think that's why baseball has been on my mind, because he was so excited to wear that. And yeah, it just brought
That's
back
cool.
those memories. But I was telling him a little bit, because I was going to school in Springfield, and I think I was 8 years old, and they had a traveling team that was, the best players from 8 to 12, and then they had kind of the city league stuff. And, of course, everyone tries out for the travel league, and I made the top. It was kind of a big deal. There was only, I think, 2 8-year-olds, but I made the top 25. I mean, that tells you, it's like, how many kids went out if they cut it down to 25?
I know.
And of course, I didn't make it when I was 8, but you're playing against 12-year-olds, and I remember watching like Walsh at that time. They had, of course, I was the same age as like Donnie, Gallagher, Logan, Dallas, those guys, and they were all playing at 8, and man, they were so good. And they had Michael Thompson. He was 12. He went on to get drafted, and
he played for the Padres for a while.
Watching that Walsh team, I mean, they were unbelievable. And I don't know, some of the parents, talked to my parents, and it's like, it kind of started hinting that I should maybe look at going to school in Walsh. And so I ended up moving over there to go to school and started playing baseball there. And that's kind of, I got tied in with Cecil. He was kind of a pitching coach, and he had Donnie Gallagher really going. I don't know if you remember Donnie.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. And
there was a lot of kids that went to him to.
Yeah.
And I was never a pitcher, so I never went to Cecil. I think I had him as coach one time, but I can't. It was like when they split the Walsh, like the older league, into two. Because I remember like Alonzo was on my team, and then the other team was Coach Dave Campbell coached it, and like Logan and so, but there was and then there was us younger guys that didn't play a whole lot, but we were still on good enough to make the team, but kind of the scrubs. And I think that was the only time I had Cecil as coach. The rest of the time it was Errol.
Yeah, I can remember, going to Cecil's house. He had this little, I don't know, pitching thing with like a bag on the back, and it was, he had a little strike zone, and he'd have you throw into that bag, and it was fun. But I was thinking of him the other day too, because I've been going to all my kids just, I think they probably played 12 or 13 games. And, sitting out in that hot sun. And I was just thinking of all those coaches we had, that didn't really even have kids playing, like Cecil or I don't know if Alvin, when he coached you, I don't assume he had a kid, but just that we're dedicating their time, for little kids and sitting out there all day, those tournaments. And man, it kind of made me think, geez, I wasn't complaining, but I was telling my mom, man, they're playing a lot of games. And she laughed at me and she said, you don't remember your 12-year-old year. You guys played like 62 games.
Like,
golly. But,
we played, especially if you got on those all-star kind of traveling teams. Like you racked up a lot of games, and I was lucky enough to make all-stars every year I was eligible. But I played first base, and nobody likes first base, and it's kind of it's almost a throwaway position in the major leagues anymore. Just like whoever's getting old, go play first. Yeah,
I remember those days, and I think that one year. So I can remember. I think I was like 10, and the Backey County All Stars made it to the state tournament, and that's what's so different now. I've noticed nowadays, like, they break it up by 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, that. Back then it was just 8 to 12 was the All-Star.
Yeah.
And I mean,
there was no pitching machine league. It was just live pitching from the get-go.
And I think when I was 10, I didn't make the All-Star team. And I mean, I was just crushed. And those guys made it all the way up to the state tournament for the first time. They didn't win, but they made it. And I remember sitting at home while they were, listening to them, and it's like, man, I'm never gonna be sitting at home again. I got to get out and work harder because that was, I mean, because, yeah, your friends are playing and you're just, I mean, it wasn't no like, well, we're going to just make sure everybody gets to play.
Oh, what the hell? He dropped out on me. So stay with us. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Let's see. It's got me in the app and I don't know. I downloaded the app like it said and kicked me off. Are you there?
Huh. I don't know. I've not been on the receiving end of these sessions very often, so I don't know the back end of it very well on the other side. So, but I don't know. I've not used that app much. I don't know.
All right.
Never
We'll
asked.
see.
Yeah. Anyway, so you graduated in what, 2001?
2002.
2002. Okay. So
Yeah.
I graduated in 2004. So you're 2 years ahead.
Yeah.
And you live what's your chronological order of schools? Cause we kind of jumped around a little bit. Both of us jumped around a little bit.
Man, it's funny because I look back on that and it's like, holy cow. So yeah, born in Springfield, and my mom, her side of the family was, they went to Pritchett and Kim kind of area. My grandpa was a basketball coach, pretty successful. And so sports was just always kind of a big deal. And so I don't know why they put me in school in Pritchett. So I went there from kindergarten to first grade. Then I went to Springfield second to fourth grade. And then kind of got recruited to go over to Walsh. And then went to Walsh from 5th to 7th grade. Then I moved with my mom to Lyman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you went up to Lyman for a while.
So I was up here from 8th grade to 11th grade. And then my uncle was a basketball coach in Eads. So it would be my mom's brother. He played professional basketball in Europe and just really well-known small town high school.
That was Lane,
coach.
right?
Yeah, Lane. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so going into my senior year, well, Jefferson Academy, I don't know if you went to state basketball. They were like a charter school in Denver, and we played them at state, and they called me at school at Lyman and I went to the office and had a phone call from their coach, and he's like, man, we want you to play summer ball with us, and we got all these camps, and we got this and we got that. And so I was like, well, I think I had a car, but I couldn't drive to Denver. And so I came up with this idea because I wanted to play with him because, he's kind of telling me we got these colleges, recruiting this and that. And I wanted to play basketball in college really bad. And so I talked to one of my friends that could drive, and I said, man, they're wanting you and me to play on this team in the summer with them, and we could get recruited and this and that. And they really didn't want my friend, but I told him that. And so he drove me up there, and we get there and they gave me a jersey and not him. And he was like, what the heck's going on? I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll get you on the team. And so I played with them a lot in the summer, and they were kind of trying to recruit me to move up there and go. I don't know if you remember like Jonathan Sanders. He played up at CSU anyway, at Bellevue Christian.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah. So anyway, his dad was the coach, and he had moved to this other school, and they just recruited all over to get players. And so I started telling this guy, like, they wanted us to play in all these tournaments. They wanted us to go to Vegas and all these places. And I was like, man, I promise I'll get you on the team. So I don't know. It was a couple tournaments. He just sat there, and finally I kept – but he was a good player, but he just didn't really – our coach in Lyman, I don't know, didn't see a lot in him at the time. So he didn't really get a play for us. So they didn't know much about him. And I kept telling them, he's got a lot of skills and this and that. Well, we were missing a player one game, and he got a play, and he was so excited. And so then I played with Lyman. We went up to CSU team camp, and then my uncle Lane at Eads called me and wanted me to play with them at CSU Pueblo. So I went down there, and we won the tournament. And pretty soon my uncle and my grandpa were like, man, you'd fit in pretty good at Eads, and so I ended up transferring to Eads my senior year, basically. Kind of long story short.
I think, and then I think we played you guys in the playoffs in baseball that year.
Yeah.
Because we there was 3 of us that were headed back from state FFA judging contest up at CSU, and they just dropped us off in Eads there. I think of the 3 of us that got dropped off, 2 of us forgot our cup. So, but we were, I think we'd have been sophomores that year. So,
yeah, it's funny when you ask me about schools, because like, man, I can't believe I went to that many schools.
So, I didn't bounce around quite that much, but I started in Campo. Then I moved to Springfield for like a half a year, and then over to Walsh, and that's where I finished out at. So, I never got recruited for any sports, unfortunately. I was a pretty okay high school baseball player. That was kind of my peak athletic ability. I was a pretty okay distance runner, and I was a pretty okay high school baseball player.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know. I didn't really think of the Walsh thing as recruiting until I got much older. But I was like, because it was like Dave Campbell and those guys were talking to my dad and like, man, you need to get him over here and stuff. And now I'm older. I'm like, that pretty much is what that was. But
yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, they had some pretty good athletes that you guys did that year, like because Logan was a pretty good athlete. Alonzo Garcia was like a sneakily good athlete.
Yeah. Riley Hume was good.
Riley was good. Yeah.
I mean, that baseball team, it was like, because that was kind of the 2 memories I really have of that. I think we were like, that group, all those guys you're talking about, we were 12. So we went up to Cedar Edge and won the state tournament up there for Vaca County All-Stars. And then we came home and they actually had a parade in Walsh for us. I mean,
I remember that.
Do you remember that? I mean, I would love to see pictures of this day, because when you're young, it felt like, this massive thing. It probably wasn't dinky, but I remember feeling like on top of the world there. It's like we did that parade. And I was telling my son this story too. A really cool thing that summer was because, we were all 12, and then we it was in Springfield, 4th of July, and they did a scrimmage with our 12-year-old all-star team, and they had a scrimmage with 13-year-old all-star team, and it was right, but they did the county fireworks at the ball field that year. So I can remember, the whole county's coming in to watch the fireworks while this game's going on. So they just are parking around that Little League field. I mean, it felt like a Little League World Series. I can remember just people everywhere.
I remember that. Because they had a couple games going on. I played one of those games. I don't remember. It had to have been if you were 12-year-old, that had to have been like 10 and under all-stars.
Yeah.
We had like the Bumblebee jerseys, the bright yellow with like black velvet pinstripes.
I remember those. Yep.
They remind me a lot of like the old school Pittsburgh Pirates jerseys. They were hot as shit. Holy God, they were hot.
I bet. I'd love to see those
hands.
now. Yeah, I remember that though. There was, it seriously, because I just still remember people just parking their cars in the outfield, and it's like, it just seemed like there was thousands of people there. And then game got over right at dark, and they lit off the fireworks. And it felt like, to me, it was like Sandlot type on steroids.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And then I just remember going to like a lot. We went down to Beaver, Oklahoma one time with Alvin. I'm sure it was through his sale barn buddies he got it all lined up, but it was, thinking back on it now, because there's that sale barn down at Beaver, and that's Alvin's day job, is just kind of trading cattle, hitting the sale barn circuit. And I'm sure he just talked to one of his buddies down there and organized a game. But I can remember driving down to Beaver, Oklahoma to play a Little League game. And it's so different than it is today.
It is. I lived for it. I mean, I can remember I'd watch the old school Bad News Bears, like when they take that van to Houston and play in the Astrodome. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
I had that recorded somehow, and I'd watch that before every game, and I had like this ritual when I was, I'm 10, 11 years old, and I mean, around noon, I would just start watching these baseball movies and getting my uniform. I mean, I lived for it. It was
yeah, I did too. It was funny is like, I didn't watch a lot of baseball is the crazy part. Cause I think it was 93. So I was 8 when the Rockies came to town. But before that, we didn't really have baseball on TV. And
I'd watch the Braves. They were on TBS. I remember those early 90s Braves teams. I'd watch them, but yeah,
that was kind of what it was. But then, yeah, when I moved over to Walsh, we didn't really have TV. Like we had ATV and movies and stuff, but we didn't have like live TV. So I didn't watch a whole lot of sports in high school, all the way through until I got to college. And so like I was always a Rockies fan just because I was Rockies and Indians. I'd been to Indians game in Cleveland. It was the opening year of the Jake.
I feel like you always wore an Indians hat, didn't you?
Yeah. Okay. And then I was Rockies because that was the cool thing about those state tournaments. You had host families and stuff. And like we got to go to Elitch's and we got to go to a Rockies game with the host family. So we got to go up to Denver, which was cool, being us country bumpkins, and hang out for a week and play baseball, which was awesome enough as it was. And then we got to go to these just random people's houses and have sleepovers with the an opposing team. And it was pretty wild.
I can remember my first host family. We were playing at state up at Fountain, and I think I was with Dallas, and you remember Jamie Ripple?
Yeah,
and it was Dallas, Jamie, and me, and our host parents were so nice, but they said, okay, the one rule is you guys cannot. They lived right up by that creek that runs through Fountain, and they're like, you can't get in that creek, whatever you do. And I mean, within the first 30 minutes, we were out in the creek. I mean, the water seemed like it was going pretty fast. I remember, those guys were a little crazier than me. I was more like kind of cautious. And I was like, man, I don't think we should be out here. And then they came out there and just chewed our ass. It was so
That's
funny.
Funny. Yeah, because I think there was one year the tournament was in Pueblo, and then there was a year or two that it was in Denver, and that was always fun. Just random people would, like, I don't know if they just drew names out of a hat or whatever, and it's like, all right, you're taking this many, and so like you had like 3 or 4 host families per team.
Yeah,
and
you meet up with your buddies, and you're like, oh, ours has we have a PlayStation, and we got this, and we got that. What do you guys have? You're comparing what amenities you had.
Oh, some host parents went all out, and so like if you got them, like you got all the sugar, all the cool shit, and then there was other people that are just like, no, they're just like, I fine, we'll host these kids, but we're not doing anything special.
Yeah, and that Fountain family, they had this huge pantry, and they must have went to Costco or something and just got every kind of snack a 12-year-old would want that their mom would never let them eat,
Mm-hmm.
And just filled the cupboards, and it'd be middle of the night, and we would just wake up and go in there and get food. Talking about just baseball in that time frame, though, I think another thing why it was so big down there too, because you had Lamar. They were of course winning state championships at the high school level, and then they were putting guys getting drafted.
Yeah,
I remember like Scott Ellerton and Broquel and some of those
guys.
That's
right, I think Scott Ellerton. I forgot about him.
I think there's just so much buzz around baseball down in that area. It was kind of a hotbed for sure. Lamar there.
Lamar, 90s. Lahana. Well, Lahana we always played at Tippy Martinez Park, and Tippy Martinez was a Lahana native, made the big leagues. I don't know how storied his career was, but I mean,
yeah, he got a ballpark named after him.
Yeah, I mean, he made the big leagues. Like the more you read about that stuff, like even back then it was hard. Now there's twice as many teams, and it's it's tough to make the big leagues.
Oh yeah. But I think it was just that culture down there. I think the weather, it was, I don't know. I feel like we started playing way earlier in the spring than they do now. And it just seemed like we were just, playing. And I don't know. It's just a good time. I think it was it was probably my best memories, really, of just
I loved it.
Doing all that.
It brings me so much joy just to watch my little boy playing baseball now with his team, and I was like, those were the days, man. Those were the days.
I know. I still make I force my kid. I'm gonna brainwash him, but I make him watch the Bad News Bears, and I make him watch the Sandlot.
Oh yeah.
I just love those movies back in the day. Just like that whole idea of just playing baseball with your buddies, and I love that line in Sandlot when they it's like 100 degrees and they're drinking the Cokes, and they're talking about how Benny, like that the pool was the only thing that he could kind of tolerate, like every once in a while, every other day was baseball.
That's kind of how it was. It was the pool or baseball. I mean, that was kind of that's what summertime in Walsh centered around, as as a kid that was around town a little bit.
Yeah.
Because my mom would go into the school to work, and she'd just buy us a pass for the year for the pool, and our chore money went into the concession stand account at the pool, and that was summer, and just go to the pool, go to practice, go to a game.
Yeah, it was fun, and you got to know. I like those all-star teams too, because it's like you got to know kids from other towns, and I mean to this day, I run into guys that I played with, and it's like you can just tell we just have that bond from that playing on those teams.
Oh yeah,
just never goes away.
I was telling because we got a pretty good culture going here where I'm at. My son's team there, and it's machine pitch farm. They call it the farm league, but they had two coaches, and then there was like 5 or 6 of us dads that just helped with practices and games and stuff. So they had like a full coaching staff for this team, and but I was telling the head coach, I was like, like all but one of the guys that I had as groomsmen in my wedding, I played ball with at some point, either growing up or intramural in college. And there's something about having one of the baseball guys is like those are my best friends.
It really is. It's pretty special. It does seem like it's changing, but I'm sure the kids have just so many other options. Like you say, we just have the pool or baseball. Now they, the video games and the screens, and I'll watch movies with my son. Or like Sandlot or whatever, and they're, they walk around town, and he's like, "Man, did you used to do that? Did you, like just free range basically?" I said, "Yeah,
pretty much."
It's like nowadays, everybody's like their mom's got to drive them to wherever for a play date, and this and that.
My mom rarely drove me to anything baseball related. I was hitching a ride with somebody.
Yeah,
like. Every time, like she did not she made sure I got there, but she only drove when she had to. Like she was not a big she wasn't the best sports mom, you might say. She's not yelling from the stands.
Yeah.
But it was I always got, there was very few. It wasn't until high school when she kind of started, like, she didn't want me playing football, so I only played freshman year, And then I played baseball freshman and senior year and wrestled senior year. So I ran track one of those years. I can't remember which, but it's funny. I was good at my like 800 was my race in junior high, and I was pretty good. I was always in the top 3. And then I didn't run track again until I think it was like junior or senior year. And all those guys that I raced against got like a whole foot taller. And I was still there like 5'8", 5'9". Like I didn't have the stride. So like I could still keep a pace, but those guys covered way more ground than I did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think of that too, because just everyone develops so differently, you know, in athletics. And I just remember like back in the day, just those kids that were, you know, you'd play different towns and they had like a mustache or a beard,
Yeah.
or, you know, and they're like jacking home runs, you know, like throwing so fast. You're like, geez. And then by the time they're in high school, you know, they kind of peaked and you passed them up. But yeah, it's just funny to see kids. I see it with my son's team. It's like the kids that are super good, I'm sure there'll be a couple of them, but I know it's going to be changing. Like you'll see kids just kind of peak out.
Yeah, I didn't really hit my last growth spurt till like the summer between junior and senior year, and I went from, you know, like 5'5" and $120 to, you know, 5'9" and like $180. Just in the course of a summer, it seemed like. So
yeah, it is crazy when you hit that growth spurt. I feel like I didn't really peak till kind of my junior year, high school probably. I always felt like I was a little behind everybody. Not so much like when you're talking baseball, not so much fielding. I was always really pretty solid, but the hitting, you know, just those guys that were just stronger and
yeah, I was
bigger.
never a power hitter. I could always kind of slap it out there, little Texas leaguer, but I wasn't. I think I only hit 1 or 2 out my entire baseball career.
Yeah. That's how I was. And you remember those.
Oh yeah. Who was the sounds really racist, but it's not. It's just how the Southeast Colorado was. But it was the black family from Eads. Gilmore's was that their
Gilmore's,
last
name?
Yeah. And you call them that because if you don't know their last name, they were the one black family in that part of the world. So I think it was Stephen Gilmore was my age, and it was one of the twins. Anyway, I almost hit the cycle off him. I had everything but the home run. I hit it dead center, and I was right at the warning track.
Oh man, yeah. Those guys they were all so athletic in every sport, phenomenal.
Yeah, they were really fast, like really, really agile. Like they weren't particularly great at any sport, but they were just so athletic that it made up for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and I'm not saying that disparagingly, but they were really good athletes, but they weren't. I mean, track was probably their best.
Well, I mean, I guess I would say probably basketball. Well, depends which one you're talking about. I would venture to say they were pretty great, to be honest with you, when it comes to basketball and football.
I didn't follow basketball much. Basketball was never really my jam. So I'll defer to your judgment on that. But like they were good baseball players, but it was more raw athleticism than it was, skill. Football, they were pretty good at. I'll give them. They had plenty of skill at that.
Right.
And like you said, they were really, really athletic.
For sure. Yeah. It's funny though, like just all these towns always had a couple guys, you know, there's always just a couple guys that were good.
Mm.
I do think that in that area, that Walsh, I mean, you could rattle off like 9 guys probably that were just phenomenal athletes.
Oh yeah.
Really.
There was, like, and there from all around athletes to like some some just like really good offensive linemen or something.
Oh yeah.
There was just I don't know. We had some pretty good athletes. I will say, like,
yeah.
I do remember I was able to start freshman year in baseball, couple different games. So I was like, well, I was pretty good because that was a good baseball team. Like we were pretty high ranked and like got pretty close to making the state tournament. So I felt pretty good that I was able to start a couple of those games.
Well, I think too when we played so much baseball in Little League that you just develop those fundamentals. I mean, it's like pretty much everybody was just so fundamentally sound.
Yeah, I skipped those like middle school, junior high years of baseball. I went to work instead, and I could still play at the high school level. It just everything was sped way up. Particularly the pitching. Like my fielding was still good. Well, infielding, I was never a good outfielder. I couldn't judge a fly ball to save my life. But I was good at the quick reaction stuff, and so I started at third several times as a freshman. So I was like, I can play a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was fun. Now, did you go on and play college ball at all?
I did. I played basketball. That's kind of my. I kind of got burned out of baseball a little bit. I was probably a better baseball player than basketball. But by the time I moved to Lyman, I just really didn't. I played baseball, but I just didn't really have like a passion for it anymore. And but I played basketball. I went to Otero for 2 years, and my dream in life was actually to play basketball at University of Arizona. So I watched the movie Rudy as a kid, and he walks on at Notre Dame, and I just always told myself, like, I'm going to walk on at Arizona. And so I didn't get an exact chance to walk on, but I got my foot in the door with the program and was basically a student manager / kind of got to practice with kind of hopes of getting a walk-on position. But it was pretty cool because Lute Olson, is a Hall of Fame coach, and we were one game away from the Final Four the year I was there, and I would have got to travel with the team to that. And John Wooden showed up to practice one day. I got to meet him, and
nice.
Just all the NBA players would come in. It was a really cool opportunity. So I kind of just chased my dream, went after it. Don't really have any regrets.
Well, that's pretty rad. I remember like basketball was pretty huge, like elementary school days. Because that was when Jordan was on his tear.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I just found out real quick that I wasn't very good at basketball, and so like past 8th grade, I was just like, I'm not. I don't really care for the sport, and if I'm just going to be a bench warmer, I'd rather not. I'm not there just to go ride the bench. I'm gonna.
Right.
So I wrestled a couple of years, and I don't know. Basketball was never my thing, and but there's a lot of cool history with particularly like college basketball.
Oh yeah, I'm a diehard college basketball fan.
Yeah, I do enjoy kind of some of that aspect of it. Just like baseball is my jam. Like that's my number one sport of all time, and it's mostly because of the history. Like I've got a handful of audio books that I'll if I get tired of listening to politics all day, I'll just turn on a baseball book, and I for whatever it was, like there's certain people that when they're just like baseball junkies, and that is like and I know you're one of them. Like my good buddies are all like, I just love. There's nothing better than the crack of a wood bat on a summer day.
Oh yeah, that's how I am with baseball. I'm just a huge college basketball fan. I mean, I remember living in Walsh actually. It was in '97, and Arizona won they won March Madness, and so I'm watching them, and I remember sitting in my living room, and I was like, that's where I'm going to go to school, like that's what I'm going to do, and so kind of that's where my dreams started back then, actually in Walsh, but yeah, I was the same way. I love the history of March Madness. I love the great coaches at these universities, and all of that stuff. Like I get teary-eyed every year after the Final Four. They play that one shining moment, and it's like a song they play, and the highlights of the tournament. And I don't know. I'm just a junkie for college basketball, but
how do
it's
you
all
think
changing now with NIL and everything.
I was gonna say, how do you think that's gonna? Because college football's almost unrecognizable compared to where, like, when I graduated college.
I'm definitely just being at Arizona and just that high level and being friends with all those guys. Like they're selling their jersey in the store. I mean, we're playing back in the day. It was like college basketball on, PlayStation or whatever. You could see like how much money that was being made, and these guys, weren't getting any of it. So I kind of definitely saw the downside of what the struggle. Like their parents couldn't even afford to come to the game. Like you couldn't give them the program.
They can't go get a job either.
Yeah, can't get a job. I mean, so I was definitely supportive of paying the players. I mean, I just think it was necessary. But where I'm kind of a little bit just unsure of where I stand is the transfer portal, because I think I think there's something to be said about fighting through the adversity and learning to sit on the bench a little bit. But these guys, man, the first time they get put on the bench, they're already transferring to another school, and you just don't get any time to develop. So I think that's really hurting college basketball right now.
Yeah, well, there was it was there for, like Calipari kind of started it with the one and done players, and he had he went on a run where he just recruited the top player out of high school, and we're winning it all this year, and he's gone after that.
Yeah,
and it worked for him for a little while.
It did. What I find interesting right now is, I got a good friend that coaches up at UNC Greeley, and that Dalton Connect, he was at UNC, and then he transfers to Tennessee, got SEC Player of the Year, and then he was the number 7 draft pick for the Lakers, and he started up at Greeley. But they basically now, I feel like these mid majors are kind of the new junior colleges, really. They basically develop these kids, and then they go transfer to big time school. And so I feel bad for all the mid-major coaches, because they're putting in all that work, and then the guys are leaving, so they can't develop their team. It just and so that one and done deal, the young players, like the freshmen, were dominating for like 10 years, and now it's all about with the COVID year and everything, you got guys that are 24, 25 years old.
Oh, I know.
And it's kind of fun to see that, though, see these other schools that get older players that are, kind of making, like the McDonald's All-American was always, that's like the blue chip, I don't know, top player in the country. And you don't hear of that being quite as much of a focal point now. It's like, let's go get the 25-year-old from UNC.
No shit, huh?
Which blows my mind.
That's pretty crazy. I was on the college football end of things, you've had the conference realignment stuff. They're going to a 14-team playoff after this year, and bowl games are essentially meaningless at this point. And to the point where a lot of the big name players that could get drafted are just not playing because it's not worth the risk to their career. And you're just like, how do you bridge that gap? Once, like, that seems like a Pandora's box type deal. Like that, you're not getting the genie back in the bottle on bowl games, I don't think.
I know. I tell you, I get like super sad well, it's been over 10 years now, but just all the conference realignment. I mean, I hated when, like, I'm not a CU fan, but just seeing CU go to the Pac-12,
Pac-12, yeah.
you know, it's like Arizona's now going to the Big 12, and I love the rivalries of college sports. That's one of my favorite things, and it's all screwed up now. I mean, I can't even think I think, like, is Cal? They're in, like, the ACC now, or Stanford's in the ACC.
I think something like that. And USC and UCLA are now in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
When the Rose Bowl used to be, you know, the winner of the Big Ten versus the winner of the Pac-10 played in the Rose Bowl, but now it's all just one conference.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think part of it is they just kept adding these meaningless bowl games on that nobody was asking for, and it diluted it down. So, like, it got to the point where you only had to have, I think that's still the case, you only have to have a 500 record to become bowl eligible.
Yeah.
And so they just got diluted to where they didn't mean anything anyways. And then as the college players got smarter when it came to professional sports, you know, they're like, oh, I'm not going to risk getting my knee blown out for the famous, or, you know, the Idaho Potato Bowl.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm gonna sit that out and go and work on, you know, the combine or whatever.
It is. I feel like everything's just watered down, which is kind of sad, because it's like we were talking about with just, and I guess we're just getting old maybe, but it seemed like
that might be part of it too, huh?
That's probably more of it. I guess I'm just old, but yeah, just the glory days, man, of, like, the March Madness.
Yeah. It was you know, I was.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you were cutting in and out, but yeah, I was and I bring it up a lot when I'm talking baseball with the buddies. Is there he goes. But we'll be right back.
You there?
Yeah, I got you now.
I don't know why. I think it just lets me go a little bit and then kicks me off, but I'm back now.
All right. Well, it's not an issue. I can cut out the dead spots easy enough. Right. So
one thing I want to talk to you about real quick, I'm just curious on, do you feel like, just growing up in Beckett County, it's pretty interesting how, when you're a kid or whatever, you know, you think, and not that I didn't like living down there, I did, but, you know, you're just like, you want to see the world, or you want to do this, you want to do that. And it's just amazing how I feel like Beckett County shapes you in, you know, a positive way, really. Just the mindset, and kind of gives you some grit, and it's pretty cool, actually.
Well, I was just down there around the 4th, and I went down to my dad's and spent the night, and there is just something just peaceful about. I mean, the place is kind of run down. He's a pack rat, and he's got all, you know, some people call it a hoarder, but he's just, you know, and he's old, but there's just, it's like that's the home place, you know, like that's
right.
It's like the center of the universe, and you're just like, well, there it is. We're home, and it's nice because our ancestors built it and made it, and it's a tough enough place to live that there's not many people out there.
It is. I noticed too, when I go back, it blows my mind how you'll drive by so-and-so's house, you know, and it's like, it's still so-and-so's house, and they're still driving the same pickup that they're driving when you were, like, in 3rd grade, you know, or whatever.
I know.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's like people I guess, just modest, and, you know, they know what a tough time life can bring. So I don't know. It's not materialistic. It's just, it feels, at home, because it's just, this looks very similar to when I was, you know, 3rd grade.
Well, it's such a contrast from all, like, you know, like Reno is blowing up, and you see all the development. The Front Range is the same way. And like it's just row after row after row of houses that look exactly the same. And you're just like, I don't know, I kind of like the junky old town of Walsh. It just
I know.
It's got pretty run down, but I'm still just like, I don't know. I'd rather see some weeds grown up in the yards around here than I would see just the same development over and over and over again.
Right. Oh, I know.
It's that was always one of the things I appreciated about New York is how like each little area of the city is like this distinctly different. And like going to Chinatown or Little Italy in New York, just like you cross the street and all of a sudden you're in a different world. And and that's what I kind of always what I appreciated. And like Southeast Colorado, every little homestead you come to, former homestead, now just ranch or farm is just a little different than, I mean, a lot of them, they had the same equipment and stuff, but like the layout of the house and everything, it's all different. And it could be just a couple miles down the road.
It is. And I think just the people too. I feel like when I was growing up down there, we got along with everybody, but there was definitely more, the Springfield Walsh rivalry, and just there's some rivalry stuff going on. And now it's like it's pretty much Bakke County just feels like one big town, and you run into people from whatever school now, and it's like you're all just from the same town, it feels like, and that's kind of cool too.
I feel like those traveling team all-star teams kind of help break down that big rivalry, because like, even in high school, like we'd talk shit to Springfield all the time, but like those were our buddies. We played baseball together in the summer, so like you didn't have like that hate your guts rivalry. Like that was more kind of reserved for like McClave and Eads and places like that.
Yeah.
It seemed like.
It does seem like, down there it's just everybody's kind of one, and it was funny. I took my kids back to fair last year. I don't know how, it's been quite a long time since, I don't think I've ever taken them to fair. We've been back down there a couple times, but they did the turtle race.
Nice.
They thought that was the coolest thing ever. Just like those simple things that I would almost venture to say like, oh, my kids won't even want to do this. This is, whatever. And it's just funny how much fun
it's just something that a group of boys. It's a group of boys started doing back in like the 1880s behind the one-room schoolhouse on lunch break. They just go, let's go down to the creek and get some turtles and race them.
Yeah. I mean, it was they were so excited about that. It was crazy. It was probably a great memory. I'll always remember the face, because we went down there and my uncle had caught like 5 turtles, and he had them all in shoe boxes, and my kids, they've seen a turtle, but they walk in there and he's got all these turtles ready to go, and they were just so confused. What are we doing?
That's funny.
It was funny.
Yeah, my kids got to experience 4th of July in Southwest Kansas, Southeast Colorado, and we had a lot of mortar shells and like I guess my wife's family wasn't big on fireworks growing up, and I don't know what it was about the Walsh fireworks stand back in the day, but that like they always had the best fireworks around. I don't know why.
It's funny you said that, because I was just talking to my buddy. He went into Wyoming and bought some fireworks, and he was just saying in Colorado they don't have good fireworks. And I wasn't real into fireworks back then, but I swear we had amazing fireworks. But they probably weren't from Colorado, were they?
Well, that's the thing. I remember buying them all the stuff that my college buddies that grew up in Denver could never buy, like all the bottle rockets, Roman candles, all the good shit we bought in Walsh.
I know.
I don't know how it was legal. I don't know how it was legal. But because when I moved up to college at CSU, I just assumed we'd just go to the local fireworks stand and get fireworks because they'd have and they're like, no, you got to go up to Wyoming because they have everything. I was like, oh, And then I realized that, yes, they actually do have literally fucking everything up in Wyoming. They they had stuff that I didn't know was a thing at our little stand in Colorado. But I will say, I'll give them credit. Like, they had some good shit back in the day. And like all my buddies from Denver are kind of bitches about fireworks because they never had the good stuff growing up.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything better than being a kid in the summer going into a fireworks stand. It's just like,
oh man, I saved up for months leading up to the 4th.
yeah.
And I'd buy enough fireworks to last me through probably like Christmas. You know, like I'd have fireworks almost year round.
Yeah. I just like thinking about all these different things like that we took for granted. But one thing that is a lot better nowadays that I will say, because I can remember buying this Louisville Slugger TPX baseball bat from East Bay. And I checked the mail every day all summer, and that bat never came. It never came. I don't know. My parents didn't know to, do any tracking on it or whatever, but it never came. And I was like so sad over it. And then it was in the fall one day. I just showed up and there was a box on my front door, and I opened up and it was my bat. That's funny. And I was like, I think I was going into like Babe Ruth the next year, so I couldn't even use the bat anymore. And it's like, geez. But nowadays, order on Amazon and stuff, and it's like, but yeah, it would be a little easier to live down there, I'm sure, nowadays with the the order stuff. But it was brutal, like ordering anything back then.
Oh man, it was I remember I got my mom to use her credit card to buy I think it was Diamond Dallas Page t-shirt off the internet, and never got it. never got my t-shirt. It was like I think they just $20
the addresses
something.
in Walsh, they're like, this doesn't even exist. We can't even find this place. So
well, back in those days, it could have easily just been a really, really good scam. I don't know. Yeah. It was that had to have been elementary school. So like that had been, still in the 1990s at some point. So like I can't imagine, looking back on it now, that like it was probably obviously a scam. But
I remember trying to scam those CD clubs. Do you remember those where you get like 13 free CDs or whatever? We'd sign up for those, and
they'd send you a bill.
CDs in them. Yeah.
They'd send you a bill, but I'd never paid it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they ever made money.
I don't either.
I think my mom did make me pay the $20 one time, and then I just never did. But I got a lot of CDs from them.
Oh, I think my whole collection was from that. It was funny, but
it was that. And then when I got to college and actually had a real internet, then it was LimeWire, and then I never had to. I make it a habit of buying albums of bands that I really like nowadays. Yeah. But I have like it's crazy how much money I used to spend on music until I found the internet, and then I just haven't paid shit for music since.
I know. Man, I haven't bought a CD in a long time.
Yeah,
I guess you wouldn't buy CDs nowadays, but I mean, yeah, I haven't bought an album, but I love buying CDs back in the day. But geez.
So how was playing ball at Otero? They were pretty good back in the day, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I think we were ranked top 10 in the nation there for a while. It was good. It was definitely different. Their philosophy was they'd bring in a ton of kids and try to just they'd condition you all fall, and there'd be like 40, 50 kids, and they told every one of them you're going to start when they recruited you. Cool. And then they would run you and make you quit. But basically put you through like boot camp until they got down to like 12 guys. So it was pretty tough. But I made it through. So
And then you went to Arizona, and you were getting a degree in like sports medicine or something like that.
Well, I got a degree in psychology, and then I kind of
Okay.
branched into sports medicine after college. But yeah,
that's an interesting field because there's a lot of surgeries involved with sports medicine, but like the day-to-day stuff, it doesn't necessarily require a medical degree, right?
Right. I actually got my license in massage therapy, and I was working in a sports rehab place. So you pretty much just had to have a license to, work on people, and you learn all the rehab, exercises and the muscles and therapy, that kind of stuff. So I did that for a while. But yeah, my actual undergrad's in psychology. So I thought I wanted to be a college basketball coach, and John Wooden majored, I think, no, maybe he didn't. I don't know. Some great coach majored in psychology and talked about just that degree being helpful for motivating players and, that kind of stuff. So that was my thought process back then. But
what do you think of your psychology degree nowadays?
Well, I think it was all a waste of time, but it is helpful just to be able to. I think there's a lot of crazy people in the world, and you need all the help you can get.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about my animal science ag business degree. Like, I won't say it's a complete waste, but man, I've learned a lot more from just going to work. And like there has been plenty of times where I'm just like, I can revert back to such and such class and be like, explain how this, particular drug works, and, like hormones in particular, like, I can go back to the exact conversation I had with the professor about this sequence of events that I wouldn't have got without college. So like there are pieces of that though that and the whole college experience I don't regret at all. I made some really, really good friends there and learned a lot. But as far as a degree goes, like I had a guy that, and when I first started doing this podcast, he was thinking about going to college and doing the animal science type route. And I was like, man, I said, you'd have to pencil it out and what it's going to cost versus what you could make if you went out, say shoeing horses or whatever. Mm-hmm. I said, for that particular degree, I said, you'd be better off moving to a college town, working, getting a little bit of the college experience, dropping in on some classes here and there, but not having to pay, $15,000 a semester if you're in state.
Yeah. Oh,
or not a semester, I guess a year. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. It's like everything else we were talking. It's everybody goes to college, everybody graduates, it seems like, and so like everybody has a bachelor's. That doesn't really mean anything. It's the modern day equivalent of a high school diploma. It doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot unless you're in specific fields.
Right. I think if you go into engineering or pre-med or something real specific, but yeah, I would recommend psychology to anybody. Whichever. I think I've seen like psychology is like the top one most useless degree ever.
It seems like it could be a useful. It seems like it could be useful for many different vocations, but yeah, a degree in it was part of the reason why I didn't become a history major. I was like, well, I'm gonna teach or do what with a history degree, and I was like, I don't want to teach. So
the thing about psychology, I love I'm fascinated with the mind and, human behavior and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the classes. I mean, it was a super interesting degree. It's just, you have to go get a PhD if you want to make any money,
Yeah.
or, masters and all that. But it's a fascinating field.
So what have you been doing since college? So you go get a psychology degree. You're part of the Arizona basketball team at the time, or closely affiliated. Then
Right.
you graduate. Then what? Where does Bleu Ellis go?
Well, then I went and lived in Dallas with a cousin, and her husband was a chiropractor and had his own sports medicine clinic, and that's how I kind of got tied into that field. And I had kind of the athletic background, and so I would hang out at his clinic, and he started having me do just, different types of stretches with people, or, little things. And then he kind of came up with the idea, if you can go to massage therapy school for 6 months, get a certification, and then, you can be hands-on and do a lot of different stuff. So I did that for a while. And then I got tired of it. I was making pretty good money doing my own private massages and whatnot, but I didn't enjoy it a whole lot. But I was making such good money that I'd always, I'd do it. But I knew I would have to live in a big city to really long term to be sustainable. So I ended up moving back to Colorado, and long story.
Dallas is huge, isn't it? Like 5 or 6 in the country as far as population goes.
It's massive. It is. I lived down there for about 7 years,
and it's like really spread out too, right?
It is because Fort Worth it's pretty much just one giant city connected to Fort Worth.
I've not spent a ton of time down there, but it was funny. I was driving from the 4.6s to DFW, and just like you'd go from just nothing but like big ranch country, and then you'd start seeing more and more horses the closer you got to Dallas, and then it just turned into like suburban sprawl.
It's funny, I actually started, I team roped quite a bit when I was young, and then when I lived down there, I met this old guy and it was like a suburb of Dallas, Murphy, Texas, where he was at. And he he lived in the city, but he had a couple of acres, and he had an little indoor arena, and he was like 70 something. He roped calves every day. And so I started going and exercising some of his horses and started roping calves all the time. And it was, I saw like Fred Whitfield match Trevor Bazile. It'd be like watching them at the Springfield, fairgrounds. It's just sitting on the front row. Cody Ohl, all those guys, Tuff Cooper, and it was fun. I would go all the time just to watch, and it was just amazing. It really reminded me of, I say this in a weird way, but like Rucker Park in New York, where back in the heyday, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's just a famous basketball court in New York City.
Yeah.
And they would, NBA players back in the heyday would just show up there and play. And that's how it felt. It's like you'd just be at this normal jackpot, and then these guys would just show up and have a match. And it was so fun.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's big. That's big, just horse country in general.
Yeah.
You got the rodeo people, you got the cutters, the reiners, everything's down there by Dallas, Stephenville, Decatur area.
Yeah, it is. So I rope calves quite a bit. Now I moved back to Colorado. I started team roping quite a bit. Go to them World Series, jackpots and stuff. So it's fun. But yeah, I always remember just seeing just some of the best guys in the world just right there.
Yeah.
Front row.
That's pretty wild. It's cool to get to experience that, just
yeah.
even if it is like an obscure sport, whatever, like these are the best guys in the world going at it. That's still pretty cool.
That's what I've always liked about rodeo is, and I did, once I moved back here and I started team roping, I actually got on, oh, this is a funny story. So I think it was roping.com. His name was, what was his name? That was a main trainer. I can't think of his name. Anyway, he's an ex-professional. Ricky Green was his name. And,
okay.
He had his own website. So I signed up for this, and you could send in videos and they'd critique your runs. And he had like a couple NFR guys that would get back to you. Like Matt Sherwood was one of my favorite NFR guys, just, last couple years, or last 10 years, I'd say. And he would text me, and, you just get to interact with the pros pretty easily. You'd never get like in golf, you'd never get like a Tiger Woods type or, somebody, but rodeo is just so different. But so I started posting in this kind of community and questions, and I was real active in there. And next thing I know, Cole Thompson from Walsh, he was in there, and I hadn't talked to him in years. And he wrote me. Yeah, he writes me, and he was a member too. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to this jackpot, next weekend. We should rope together." And so we roped together, and we ended up winning a buckle together. It was pretty cool.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen him in quite a while, but I'd run into him when I'd make it back to Baca County and drink beer and bullshit for a little while.
Yeah. We stay in contact now, but I usually try to go to, anytime I'm going to jackpot, I hit him up because he's a lot of times there. But it was just weird
doing nowadays.
I don't actually know, to be honest with you, for sure. I know he's living down there, but it was just so random that I was in that, part of that roping community online, and
yeah, that's wild.
He popped in there.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's funny. I would run into, and it's funny, like the closer to Colorado I get, I just run into random people from Southeast Colorado. And it's kind of funny. It's a little sad because you go back to the towns and they're kind of drying up, like not, you can see guys like me and you that grew up there and then didn't go back. And it takes a toll, but it's still, like you say, there's the guy that drives the same pickup he's been driving for 30 years, still makes the same run down to the coffee shop. And but then there's guys like us that didn't move back, but you run into other guys like us, just randomly throughout, particularly in like the Denver area, just like, oh, these are back home guys that, wonder what they're doing now.
It is. Yeah, it is cool.
Well, how much longer you got in you? You gotta go anytime soon?
Yeah, I probably better get going here in a few minutes, so.
Sounds good.
Well, anything else you want to chat about? But
no, I think it was good. This is good catching up, man. I enjoyed the chat, seeing what became of my buddy Blue after you went your way and went mine. It was it was good to catch up.
It was good to catch up. I'm glad to hear you're doing well, and I'm glad you sent me a message yesterday. So it was good to hear from you.
Yeah, well, we'll stay in touch, and don't ever be afraid to give me a holler. So
sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
All right, well, take care, man, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Now move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Your eyes up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. together, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the south, till the job's done right.